And we're back with more of the Shacknews Awards 2023. We are talking about esports heroes, the esport hero or heroes of the year 2023. To win this, you really just have to be an esports competitor who had a cool story or inspired us during the year. This could be in the FGC, this could be in first person shooters, this could be in Rocket League, this could be a Smash player, some day maybe. Yeah, this could be Nintendo for being super cool with how they license out tournaments. It's not, spoiler alert. But here are the nominees this year. AngryBird, the winner of EVO 2023, the inaugural Street Fighter 6 tournament at EVO. Faker, who won League Worlds for what? Was it the 5th or 4th time in his career? I can't
Maybe.
remember.
I just know done it multiple times at this point.
He's multiple times a winner. Arslan Ash, who did win Evo's final Tekken 7 tournament, and is just kind of an all-around amazing evangelist for Tekken, globally, but especially in the country of Pakistan, where he has brought up some other players who he's been practicing with who have ended up being some of the top players in the world. Arslan's been kind of carving his own legend for the past 4 or 5 years, and it's been fun to watch. He had a great year this year as well, winning, like I said, the final Tekken 7 tournament, and also having a great showing at the Evo showcase of Tekken 8 a couple weeks ago, where he was just destroying people with Azucena. And lastly, the GOAT. I think we can call him the GOAT at this point. Rafa from Team Liquid, who won the final QuakeCon Quake Pro League tourney. That might be it. And he's won, I think it's over 6 titles as a singles player. He's won many titles as a duos player in Quake. He's a proficient Quake Champions player, as well as a Quake Live player, as well as a Quake World and Quake 3 player. Rafa's awesome and has been awesome for a real long time. So Rafa definitely deserves to be included in this list of nominees. So those are our nominees for the year 2023 for Esports Hero. We didn't really find any teams that we thought were worthy of this nomination, so we went with individuals this year. And those are the 4 individuals. So who would like to talk about AngryBird?
Well, I mean, I was at Evo and watching in real time in front of a sold out stadium full of people. Pressure is high in that situation. Obviously, we had the runbacks happening too, and some very high competition in this first tournament for Street Fighter being what it is. But Angry Bird's composure and also just the consistency, I think, was something that even commentary brought up a lot on that end. But also, Menard and some of the other folks that have made their way through the bracket, they're familiar with Angry Bird too on that end because of some of the local stuff that's been going down. So his adjustments were really impressive to see. Pretty much, yeah. He's got a steel iron will, I should say, when it comes to what's being thrown at him. I mean, I like Renard, so I was rooting for him, but Angry Bird has been on a tear, and I feel like this is actually like one of the games in a long time that like a Kim's been good, and good enough to win at a high level on that end. I know Maximilian and some of the others have complained about that in the past, but yeah, I think having the Evo be as iconic as this one was, with that kind of grand finals, was highly impressive.
Also, Mena's loser bracket run to get to there was also pretty epic. So it was almost even more impressive that Angry Bird was kind of, when you're in the grand finals on the winner's side, your heels are being cooled, right? Like you're kind of sitting there waiting watching your opponents or maybe just zoning out in the back or whatever. But to come back with that composure, and also like I believe he had some solid counter picks when Mena was juggling different characters that they were playing with. I think AngryBird was able to counter pretty well. And yeah, the composure for kind of not being super well known in the FGC and being on that grand of a scale, that grand of a stage, which I believe it was setting records for esports attendance in that arena that night. Yeah, it's like one of the biggest esports moments of all time. And
It was
Street
epic.
Fighter 6, Street Fighter and Evo, man, like that, some of the hypest moments ever have been through competitive Street Fighter at Evo. And I think Angry Bird has kind of chiseled his name in that legend.
There's nothing like having a new Street Fighter, especially at a competitive level, and then being able to the Evo pool in general is always insane. So that's always a factor in itself. But then you have the pressure of like you said, we're not going through the loser side of the bracket and stuff like that. It's obviously a heavy task, and a lot of folks are rooting for him on that end. But yeah, Angry Bird having that kind of level where he's both watching what's working and what isn't working, and being able to make those things come to the forefront in the way he did was pretty epic to see in real time.
Absolutely.
There are a couple things about Angry Bird's win at Evo that really put him over the top in this category for me. First off, Street Fighter 6 had 7,000 competitors at Evo.
Yeah.
Which is almost more than double the most competitors they've ever had in a single game ever. He had to go through a lot of people to get there. And if Mena had beat him, I would be saying that Mena was probably my pick for this one, because he took Blanca to the end.
Yeah.
And in like the if you have spent any amount of time around the Street Fighter 6 conversation, there is a lot of argument about top tiers being too strong. People arguing that JP is too strong. People arguing that Ken is too strong.
JP is too strong.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, like, but putting that aside, Mena took Blanca and shut a lot of people up with that, and that is impressive in of itself.
I was cheering for him. I'm a Blanca man, and I was cheering for him the whole time. But it was undeniable. Like, Angry Bird just came to play.
And here's the thing that's like freaking champion material about Angry Bird to me. Disconnects and desyncs were a problem at Evo 2023. Yeah. This was the year that we found out that USB ports on the PS5 will melt your gear because there is so much heat coming out of that thing. And we had a desync in the grand finals of Street Fighter 6. Mena had a desync of his controller. That could have been it. Angry Bird could have taken that W and walked away. He went through 6,999 other players to get there. He could have just said, yeah, I'll take that W. Instead, he said, no. Go ahead, get it fixed. We're playing this out. We're playing it all the way. Dude didn't have to do that at all. And that is the mark of a person that, like, he wants to win without an asterisk over it. And that's a champion
respect
right
for
there.
Everybody for sure on that one. Like, especially if they're swapping out whole PS5s in between matches, and he wanted to make sure that there is no caveats on this W. Much respect on that end.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, we talked about Faker a little bit, but yeah, Faker won yet another League World. We say Faker, but that's a team, right? That was T1 that won, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
I think it's impressive that Faker is still around at 27, which is like 5 years past the expiry date of playing esports. Now, I
don't know.
I get it.
MOBAs, I think 27 is like, it's older, but you probably got 3 more years where you can play a MOBA if you're in your late
We're not
20s.
talking about first-person shooter Twitch skills or speaker, right? Yeah. But I also, I was just doing a little bit of reading on Faker and just, seeing... I know it's a team-based thing, but seeing the dominance of, winning for the first time, I want to say it was 2013. Yeah,
He's
2013, 2015, 2016, 2023. Like it's not dynasty by definition, but it's damned impressive to have a decade of being at the top, essentially.
And
Or
it's
at
the
worth
least
longest
noting.
getting
tenured
back to the
player
top.
in the history of League of Legends esports. So
And it's worth
he's an
noting
important
that
thing there.
League of Legends is a team game, but there's a good section of that game at the beginning of the match where you play one-on-one with another player.
Mhm.
And Faker is undeniably amazing at his decision making when it comes to going solo or playing in team organization.
He also owns like a portion of that team now. Like he's like
Yeah.
a part owner of T1, which is
It's kind of
pretty
been
insane.
breaking through. Yeah, that's like a huge deal because that opened the door for other players to start owning parts of their teams.
Like I know that there's other esports folks that have been around for far more than a decade, but I just feel like being at the top for a decade in anything is impressive. In esports, the turnover in terms of like you have people rising to the top every year in a lot of different esports. So I just
I
think
think
it's impressive.
everything you're saying about Faker is also true of Rafa. Rafa's been around for a very long time and is still like the best in the world.
It's one of the things I appreciate about like when I'm choosing, my vote, like that longevity because I'm old. That's impressive to me that people can still do it. So.
I mean, we created an esports league for old people because it needed to exist, the Shacknews Champions League. And I still think there's a need for that. Like over 30, you're kind of over the hill when it comes to esports. And yeah, seeing guys that are approaching 30 that are still playing at the top of their game is inspiring. And Faker's definitely that guy. But yeah, very solid nomination. Next up would be Arslan Ash, who is, like I said, he's the Pied Piper of Tekken right now, especially in Pakistan. He is kind of the GOAT for Tekken 7's era. I know, who's the guy who always went up against? Was it Nee?
Yes, Nee. Nee is
Yeah.
one that he has a big rivalry with.
Yeah, Arslan and Nee were kind of the two. When I think of like the two best players in the Tekken 7's history, it's those guys. But in recent history, Arslan has he's taken the game to a different level internationally, which I think is cool because yeah, we know Korea and Japan have had solid FGC scenes for a very long time. I don't think many people thought Pakistan was a hotbed of esports activity. They barely have electricity or internet. So I'm not to dog everyone, but I'm saying there are rolling blackouts in that country that happen every week. So the idea that there could be an esports scene born there is pretty amazing, and Arslan's kind of been at the heart of that. So not only is he a hero for his ability to win and his track record of winning, but I think what he's done for the FGC over there is hard to ignore. And it's been really cool to watch. I just remember that first time I saw the Pakistani flag at Evo 2019, I was like, "Oh man, this is different." I used to seeing like a Korean flag or an American flag or a Japanese flag, maybe someone from Europe, but never a Pakistani flag, especially in the grand finals. And it's cool. That's just cool that it's not a surprise anymore when he shows up in the grand finals or he's in the semifinals.
And like you said, he's boosted that scene so much. Like, as I keep confusing this year with last year because Nee ended up winning it all in 2022 for Tekken 7. But Arslan Ash made it to the finals as well, and his training partner Khan also made it to the finals and beat Arslan Ash and took second place.
Yeah, that's right. Last year was where Khan his training partner beat him in the losers side, I think, to go to the grand. Yeah. Yeah, I think there was like 3 of the top 8 players in that bracket were all from Pakistan, which is just night and day from where we were in the FGC like 6 years ago.
So and it's cool. A great send-off for Tekken 7 on top of that.
Absolutely.
That game's been around for a whole generation, and now it's time to move on.
But it never stopped being fun to watch. Like, Tekken at EVO, electric every year. I think that Street Fighter 6 had its moment this year because it was brand new, but Tekken 7 had a very solid send-off. And yeah, It's in
I
good
mean,
hands.
I guess technically it's not the send off. I mean, the championships are in January.
Sure.
You get
I mean,
for Evo.
at Evo, right? Like that's the last Evo we're gonna see for Tekken 7, and it was an excellent bracket, and it was fun to watch. And Evo went very well this year, despite the PlayStation's melting people's USB cable. Rafa, you guys like Quake? Anybody know Quake? Do you like Quake Champions?
I've heard of Unreal Tournament.
Shut up! Get out of here.
Wow. I think that. Yeah.
He's reaching for the gavel.
You are overruled, Greg. I will hold you in contempt if you bring up another Epic Games first-person shooter during this deliberation. Good luck trying to figure out another Epic Games first-person shooter. They don't make games anymore. They just make Fortnite. Yeah. This is it. I don't know what the hell happens to Quake Esports. I'm really worried, honestly, because I love Quake Esports. We've held multiple tournaments for Quake. QuakeCon. We've given people tacos and fun experiences outside of the show floor. But Rafa is like, he's kind of the Rodney Dangerfield of first-person shooter esports. Like there are bigger games, right? There's Apex Legends, there's Valorant, and there's more money in those games. But you will never convince me that Quake isn't the ultimate test of skill when it comes to first-person shooters. And when it comes to that test of skill, Rafa has shown repeatedly that he's able to win in a single-player environment, in a multiplayer environment, in a team environment, in Quake Live, or in Quake Champions, despite all the nonsense that is in Quake Champions. That dude figured out the meta better than anyone. And it's a delight to watch him play whenever he's on. Like, watching him play, it feels like you're watching some sort of pre-programmed robot or something. Like, he is flawless with his strat, the way that he runs across levels, the timing that he has for, armor or, whatever. I don't think they use quad damage in Quake Pro League, but he's just a master. It's literally like watching a master at work, and it's been a delight to watch his whole career. I'm sad for Quake. I think Quake Pro League shouldn't have died. I think that Quake Pro League probably died because it was attached to Quake Champions.
Yeah.
And now I'm just worried. I'm worried, like, what happens to Quake? What happens, because the one of the first esports tournaments ever that Elon Musk placed second at, apparently, was Quake, right? Like, Quake was one of the birth of esports, the birth of competitive online gaming. Quake, right? So, I guess you said the birth of modern, I should say, because Doom was there, but it required some, WADs and working around and, Dwango or whatever. Quake was like the first, like, inside of itself. Here's this esport that just blew up, and then Elon Musk took over. But yeah, I worry because Microsoft owns Quake and id Software and ZeniMax and Bethesda, right? And I worry a lot about the future of Quake, the franchise, but also Quake as an esport. Because go ahead, Greg.
Things make comebacks all the time. People love a good comeback. I mean, there were times when Mortal
They
Kombat
had their chance, though.
That was a chance, right? It may take a little bit of time, but I mean, there's always time for the future. I mean, David will contest, like, there was a lot of times when Mortal Kombat looked really bad for a while there, right? But they swung back. Like, I think Quake can do that too, eventually, once, it's just the next thing, right? We're stuck in this Fortnite shooter genre right now, and then when that starts to dwindle, and it eventually will, every genre does, then maybe it'll be Quake's turn again. You never know. I think there's totally room for it in the future. Totally.
I think that no matter what happens, this is the end of an era. Like, even if there is a new Quake, and even if Rafa becomes, the, like, God Emperor of that game, it's in a different era. Like, this is the end of an era that began in 1996, which is really wild to think about. Yeah,
like, I think there's like a Quake Mount Rushmore that ends this year. You know, and Rafa's on that Mount Rushmore, Fatality's on that Mount Rushmore, Thresh is on that Mount Rushmore, maybe Zero or Elon Musk. I don't know. Tim Willits. I don't know who the fourth is. I'll leave that up to you guys. But John Carmack, who knows? You know who's really good at Quake? Steve Gibson.
Yes, he is. That's true. Maybe he's
What?
up there. Let's put him up there.
Let's put Steve Gibson on the Mount Rushmore of Quake. But that's my point. Is like you're right, David. This is the end of an era. It's undeniably an end of an era. So it's kind of a melancholy nomination too. Like I think Rafa has had more dominant years, but because this is the last year, kind of like the Arslan Ash nomination too. Although Arslan is doing a lot of work for the community, Rafa's already done that work. You know what I mean? Like he's been there. He's been a part of the QuakeCon scene for a really long time and been an excellent ambassador for the game. He's never done anything wrong on that front. And you think about how many esports players shove their foots deep in their mouths over time. Rafa has been a very classy champion. And I just think he deserves a nomination at the very least. And I'm going to miss Quake Pro League because to me that was 1v1 Quake is, I think, the most exciting FPS esport on Earth, and I'm sad that it's gone. I hope.
Yeah, like I would even say that like Doom technically started things, but it was like the dark ages of like what is an Ethernet cable? We got to figure this out, right? But then like Quake was basically the birth of modern esports, and so to see that they kind of like pulled a rug out of the foundation. I think the really sad thing is nobody's even going to really notice. I think Quake can make a comeback, but this is the end of what started years ago. And then I think it's just gross mismanagement on
I just
Quake champions.
I don't know if Quake should be multiplayer only. I think that's you know, like I think that decision has been a problem for years. And that this whole franchise lends itself to a massive reboot, not unlike what they did with Doom 2016. I just don't know who the hell's left over there to do it right. And I worry when you see Pete Hines leaving, you start seeing people who have been at ZeniMax for a long time, or you know when Matt Booty is announced as the new head of ZeniMax as opposed to someone from inside of ZeniMax, it kind of worries me.
The only Quake developer still there, the only one is Kevin Cloud. So they've got the art side handled, but other than that, like Quake needs a Hugo Martin, and I don't know that he wants to do that twice, you know?
Yeah, I honestly, I think Quake needs John Romero. Like they need, or even Tim Willits level design, or American McGee, or Sandy Peterson. Like the level design of Quake is why it became so popular. It was amazing level design, amazing physics design that Carmack brought with his engine. Like it was a moment in time that they captured perfectly, even though the game was imperfect. Like they captured that moment in time flawlessly. And yeah, I don't know who the hell's over there that can execute on a vision like that. So I'm worried about it. I just want to salute Rafa because my God, has it been just a joy to watch him play. And he's the right kind of champion. He really is. And boy, COD Pro League, which I think is dying, and Overwatch League, and all these other things have had a lot more money in them. I fall asleep during those things. Like Quake is exciting to watch still to this day. So yeah, shout out to Rafa. I don't know if you're going to win this, but let's vote. I'm going to start with Steve.
I think I'm going to go with AngryBird for that one.
Bill.
I'm going to give Faker a vote.
Okay. Ozzy.
I'll go AngryBird.
TJ. I think he said AngryBird.
AngryBird.
Greg.
So many compelling arguments. AngryBird, though. I think AngryBird. Yep.
I'm going to hold off on my vote for now.
How many times can you abstain?
I'm not abstaining. You're overruled. What are you even talking? Who the hell has the white hair here, Greg?
I can't remember. I thought there were rules.
You're out of order. Okay, sorry. Donovan, before I was so rudely interrupted.
I'll give a vote to Rafa.
Nice. David?
Rafa.
Okay. Danny?
AngryBird.
Okay.
Maybe.
My vote does not matter. Well, actually, it might. What was Sam's? Sam probably put something we didn't even nominate. Where is it?
In
Sam.
the end.
Sam put Angry Bird. So yeah, my vote doesn't matter. Angry Bird wins. And awesome. Like every single one of these nominees had an amazing year, and you could argue outside of Angry Bird, like all their careers have been outstanding. Angry Bird, I think, is kind of at the beginning of his career. Cool to see. Pretty humble guy. If you looked at the post game, how he reacted in post game or how he reacted on Twitter to all the love. I love seeing guys like that who are just kind of hardworking dudes that the hard work pays off for. So, congratulations, Angry Bird. You are the Shacknews Esport Hero of the Year 2023.
They just want to win. Without a doubt in my mind. We talked about this before. You know, this is the land of heroes. Each and every one of these players definitely get to dub and rock that moniker, but there can only be one champion.